What's up, everybody? Tim Anderson here, aka Renfill, the bearded dwarven princess. Welcome back. It's time to review episode 3 of Rings of Power. Just finished watching it this morning, and it's time to dive in. As always, with the rest of my reviews, as I've prefaced, there are 2 reviews at the end of this video. One is my review as a Tolkien fan, which takes into account all the things they're doing to break the lore and things they've done with characters that I know and love and things they've invented. The other review is the review from the eyes of my wife, who has never read the books, and she's going into this sort of watching this as a general fantasy series, and so we're reviewing it based on the merits of just being a fantasy show as if I didn't have any association with the books. That being taken into consideration, we have 2 different types of reviews that happen at the end of this video, so hopefully you'll stick around to the end to see all of that in greater detail. As always, thanks to all of our supporters who make this channel a reality on a day-to-day basis. Thanks to all of you who are members here on YouTube, members over on the Patreon page, who do things like drop super thanks on videos such as these to support the channel, and tuning in live every day for the live streams and doing super chats and stickers there. Thanks so much for your support. I appreciate it. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe for more like this, and stick around to the end of the video when we talk more about all the other things you can do. Until then, let's get into this episode here. Get my show notes up. Um, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So, we start off in the slave pits. We found out that Arondir and his entire company have been captured. It wasn't just him. And they're in some type of slave tunnels, slave pit scenario where the orcs have them captive. We find our first glimpse of the orcs here, and I gotta say, I believe Weta did the effects on these, and they've upped their game since Peter Jackson's films because the orcs here look incredible. These prosthetics are very, very, very well done. Um, there's this mention of the orcs are searching for something. What could they be searching for? And we get the name of this leader called Adar. Adar. Who is Adar? Well, I'm sure we're going to find out at some point, right? It would be a cliche if we didn't find out. Um, Back to being Galadriel. She's on a boat now. We find out that, obviously they have been picked up. Her and Halbrand have been picked up by Númenóreans. And whose boat was it, you might ask? Well, they don't tell us right away. There's some very cliched dialogue here about where are you taking us? Where are we going? And he just evades the question, the boat captain, and says, we're going home. I hate shit like this. This is cliched dialogue 101. However, I will say that out of all of the actors in this episode, this boat captain, who we find out is Ellendale, he takes like his this is good acting. He's a good actor. Some really good stuff going on here. Um, I gotta say here, this Númenórean stuff is amazing. Visually, everything is amazing. The boats look amazing. The shots as we're coming down the canyon into Númenor are amazing. All of the special effects here are the best I've seen in any television show and film for that matter. This is Marvel level quality. You can definitely see where this budget went to create this visual spectacle that we're talking about. Um, the music is on point here. Bear McCrea's soundtrack is really, really very well done. So everything as they're coming into Numenor is just great visual storytelling. Top, 10 out of 10 for visual storytelling. That's not the review for the episode. Calm down, all of you guys. Like, we're just talking about the visuals and the music here. Galadriel knows where they are by now. She's the island kingdom of Numenor. Halbrand asks, since when did men like me build kingdoms like these? Suggesting that the men of the south have hovels by comparison, to which Galadriel responds, these men are not like you. Oh. We then get this dialogue explaining the past, how Halbrand's ancestors sided with Morgoth, whereas the Númenóreans sided with the Eldar, with the elves, and as a result were gifted the island as a reward for siding with the good guys, basically. Um, they meet then some important people. We meet the Queen Regent Muriel. Um, eh, some stuff happens here. I'm not really going to go into that. That's not really important here. Um, what is interesting to me is that this is where Galadriel starts making demands here. She wants passage back to Middle Earth because she's on this quest to stop Sauron. And this is, again, cheesy writing. Not cheesy acting, cheesy writing. She starts making demands, and the queen's like, we're not going to send it. It's been actually it's Pharazôn, sorry, that talks here. They don't want to send a ship. It's been generations since anyone has docked on the shores of Middle Earth, and Galadriel starts to get very cranky. We gave you this island, and the queen says, we paid for this island in blood, so you just need to calm down, sister. We find out as things start to get heated here, Halbrand's the negotiator because he steps in and he's like, "Hey, why don't we all calm down? Give us a few days. We'll stay here. You guys can make up your decision, etc." Frozone mocks Galadriel because Galadriel starts dropping titles. She's like, "I'm so and so, such and such, blah 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 blah. Give me a ship." And Farazone says, "Well, Lady Galadriel, with all of your titles, you're no prisoner here. You're a guest, an honored guest. Stay a few days." This is interesting. Um, as they're getting escorted out, Halbrand's very much in Galadriel's ears, going, "Are you crazy? This place is a paradise." He's happy to what he buddies up to as superior humans. He also sees a chance for him to escape, you know, the life in the Southlands, which was very primitive by comparison. We then find out, of course, that the ship captain is Ellendale. That's the reveal here. We knew that from before. Those of us who've been paying attention. We also see Isildur for the first time. There's a cheesy action sequence on the boat to show that Isildur is a little sailor in training. And again, packing in the visuals here because everything here looks crisp, clean, and absolutely breathtaking. We get mention of a sea trial, which is, more cliches. Isildur's head's in the clouds, and then all of a sudden, sister, what the hell? Like, we suddenly find out that Isildur has a sister. He doesn't have a sister. We're breaking from the lore here entirely. They're giving him a sister. I don't know the story reason why just yet, but they've given him a sister, and I'm just like, okay. I think it's called Iarion, here's her name. Then we get this sequence where we see the white tree. The queen is giving this statement about how it's said that if the petals fall, it's as if the very tears of the Valars themselves are falling, a living reminder that their eyes and their judgment are ever upon Numenor. And she begins to question Elendil, saying, "Your name means elf friend in the old tongue. Why would you bring an elf back to Numenorian shores? An act of treason, this is." I don't know why they don't want the elves around. I don't remember why. This is something to do with like the factions, like, two factions of Numenorians, and I haven't read the Silmarillion so long. I don't remember why this is the case. But there's two factions going on: one who hate the elves and don't want to deal with the elves, and the other who very much hold to the old beliefs. And it appears that Elendil's family is from the old line, and he's basically like, "I'm not a traitor. I pulled her from the sea. The sea is what dictates our life, and the sea provided this. I wasn't going to deny the sea." Um, to prove himself, he's basically put on glorified guard duty, and he's given a promotion, um, which is interesting. Meanwhile, back in Middle Earth in the Southland, where Halbrand comes from, we're back to Arendir in the slave pits. We start to hear more about the orcs are searching for something, talking about their leader, Adar. The Watch Warden suggests this may be another name for Sauron. They start planning an escape. One of the orcs is like, You're so strong. Have some water." And while they're drinking, Arendir's buddy's throat gets slit. Um, the whole cut the tree down thing seemed really pointless to me, other than to show the elves and their sacred belief in all life being sacred. But apparently, also, Arendir never learned how to swing an axe because he doesn't really know how to swing an axe and chop down a tree. Um, Galadriel has escaped. She's wandering the streets, covering her ears, but Elendil catches her as she's about to steal his ship and says, "Hey, that's not the kind of ship you want to see if you really want to make it out of here." Um, she's given him this whole speech, and this is the first line of dialogue in the show so far up to this point that I've actually said this is actually good writing. Like, this was good writing. Elendil has this line about how I have a daughter who runs fast and a son who runs blind, and I can see both of them in your eyes. I loved this line of dialogue. Like, this, for me, this was high quality script writing right here because he's basically telling Gadriel, you need to slow your roll because you're acting like a reckless, stupid child right now. And I fully agree. She's been acting like a reckless, stupid child the whole show so far, to the point her king basically demoted her and said, "Get your ass back to Valinor because you're more problems than you're worth right now." Um, there's this moment where Elendil speaks Elvish to her, and she goes, "Oh, you speak the Old Tongue?" And he says, "My family very much is in line with the elves and still respects the Eldar. And she mentions, "You have a library in your hometown?" He does. She's like, "Oh, take me to it," because of course she wants to search the library. There's a horse riding sequence here. I've got cats going crazy, so if you see them running around in the background or sheets moving, that's what you're seeing here. Um, the horse riding sequence was so boring that I just fast forwarded through it. It's beautiful but pointless. We find Halbrand here trying to get a job with the smith, saying, "I'll craft you something better than anything you've ever seen. Just let me join." "No, you can't join. You have to have a guild seal." And then he goes to the tavern and he starts a ruckus to try to steal a guild seal, and he gets caught. There's a fight in the streets, and he's like, "No, don't attack me," and they do, and he breaks all their bones and gets put in jail. Again, some pointless character building here that I'm not a big fan of. And dun, 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 we're back in the hometown library of Ellendale. They're looking for the Sauron symbol. Obviously, they find a scroll, and in the scroll is a mention that, "Oh, this is a symbol. It's a symbol for a tower." And she goes, "Oh, I've been so stupid." And she turns it sideways, and guess what? It looks just like the mountain range in Mordor itself. So now we see that the Southlands aren't just the Southlands are actually Mordor. And this is going to be it's the beginning of Mordor. And so Galadra's now freaking out, going, "Oh, it's so much worse than we thought. Like, oh, it's not just about Sauron, it's actually this we're gonna build a kingdom where evil can thrive." Ah, cliched writing. Very cliched writing. We find out though the previous king, who was an elf friend, was forced out and now spends his days in exile. I'm sure we're gonna meet him at some point. Dun, 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 dun. Back to this Woodland Ceremony. Very recognizable music from McCreary here. Very Outlander, Black Sails stuff here. Nobody goes off the trail. Nobody walks alone. Nobody goes off the trail. Nobody walks alone. As they chant and run around in a circle, preparing for the Great Migration. Um, I'm not a fan of a lot of what's going on with the Harfoots here. Nori's dad's foot isn't better. He can't migrate. Mom's freaking out that they're going to get left behind. How much money you want to bet the stranger's going to be the one who heals her dad's foot in an upcoming episode? Ah. Um, Nori tries to steal Sadok's book, excuse me, because of the star charts. There's this other cliched, cheesy sequence where she has to hide under the desk while her friend is outside. Like, there's also cheesy dialogue leading up to it where her friend's like, "No, don't do it," and she's like, "Of course I'm going to do it," and her friend's like, "No," and Nori's like, "If you don't, I'm going to tell everybody that you were the one who did this thing back then," and her friend's like, "Okay, I'll watch," and then of course she gets stuck under the desk as Sadok comes in, and her hands searching for the thing up the page up top, and her friends like talking to him like, "You're so right. No, I mean you're left. I mean you're ahead and right," and like confusing the old man because she's giving directions to her friend under the desk. It was a horribly cheesy sequence. I'm sure children will love it. As an adult, I was not a fan. Um, dun 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 dun. She gives the page to the dude. The stranger reads it over a campfire. He's recognized the stars, but he's also very simplistic here. The page gets on fire. He freaks out, stumbles through the town, falls over, comes up. All the Harfoots see him, and now Nori's being blamed, and they're threatening to decaravan her. And then Sadok's like, "No, but we can still continue on, but your caravan's going to be at the absolute back of the migration." And so that's some sort of shaming ritual here. Um, family scene, with Nori, this whole there's a reason he came to us, and the mom is like, "You think you're special? You think destiny has touched you?" And of course, the Nori's like, "I can feel that he's special." I just don't like cliched dialogue like this. This is whole prophecy, chosen one bullshit that never had any place in Tolkien's world. I mean, there was never any chosen one dialogue, at least not that I remember. So it feels very generic fantasy. You know what I mean? Like this is generic fantasy at work here. The chosen one thing, prophesied one. I can feel it. It's destiny. Um, while Galadriel was in the library, she found a scroll which shows the symbol of that bag that Halbrand hangs around her neck, and she confronts him in prison about how, "You're the son of a king who swore his line to Morgoth, and my family was the one who started the war in the first place. So we need to band together and take out this evil threat because it's going to redeem both of our bloodlines." And Halbern's like, yeah, but we don't have ships in an army. And she's like, oh, don't worry, we soon will. So you know she's planning on manipulating Ellendale and the Númenóreans somehow to whatever. Um, tragic backstory, destiny, blah 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 blah, redeemer bloodlines, blah blah blah, generic fantasy stuff at work here. None of which was part of the actual Lord of the Rings storyline in the Silmarillion. Meh. By the way, this scene of Numenor at night is probably the coolest thing I've seen since Khazad-dûm. Really cool stuff. We get the queen in a tower here talking to somebody, probably her father. She says, "It's here, father. The moment we feared, the elf has arrived." So we haven't actually met her father yet, but she's in a tower talking to somebody. Um, Migration time, and of course, Nori's family's falling behind because of her father's twisted ankle, and all of a sudden here appears our stranger, and Nori's like, he could help us keep up with the caravan by pulling our wagon for us, and now the family accepts him because it's the only way that they're going to be able to survive in the wilderness because no one. What is it? What's the phrase? I gotta go up and find it. Um, Stop, Lucas. You're tearing stuff up. Um, Nobody walks alone. What is the sequence? I'm trying to find the dialogue here. Oh yeah, nobody goes off trail. Nobody walks alone. Nobody goes off trail. Nobody walks alone. It's all here. Back to the orcs. Big action sequence. Here come the Warg reveal, which obviously that face on the Warg was pretty interesting. This action sequence, I fast forwarded through it. No desire to watch it. It was a bunch of we're gonna fly around, anti-gravity, Matrix style action sequence. Um, Probably to make the elves appear as if they're somehow superior in combat to everyone else. But it was a horrifically stupid scene. Um, the Watch Warden dies. Arender doesn't escape, and as he gets pulled back down, we see this figure walking through. They start chanting the name Adar, Adar, Adar. It won't show his face, but he obviously looks humanoid. Now, whether or not it's going to be a human or an elf with human features, we don't know yet because it's all fuzzy. They don't show us the reveal. And scene. So, my review, episode 3 in the Rings of Power. Once again, first review is from a lore perspective, and this week I'm giving it a lower score than last week. From a lore perspective, I'm only going to give this one a 5 out of 10 because they're way off base with a lot of shit here. We've got an invented daughter for Ellendale, which makes no sense whatsoever. We have a whole bunch of generic Destiny prophecy bullshit from Galadriel and Halbrand. Um, I'm just not buying any of it. They're way off track with a lot of the storyline here, and this is the worst episode yet in terms of lore. So from a did it follow Tolkien's established world and everything else, it has places and locations. We get this, kind of cheesy. This is how. Come here, Mary. Come here. If you're going to be so naughty, come up here and we'll show you in the episode because you're being horribly naughty, tearing things up as I'm trying to review, and I'm having to pay attention to you and not my review. From the perspective of we're just going to use locations from Tolkien's books, that's here, and we can definitely see all of these locations. And it was really cool to see Numenor and everything else, but the rest of it was just made up. So, previous 2 episodes, I gave a 6 out of 10. This one, I'm actually dropping that down one and giving it a 5 out of 10. However, my generic fantasy review is going to go up a notch. So from a generic fantasy viewpoint, like my wife's viewpoint, 7 out of 10, because there's a lot of cool stuff here. We get great visual effects. We get great um, sound effects and music and great visuals with the orcs and everything else. There is, of course, some cheesy dialogue with the Harfoots, but that's to be expected because they're there for the kids more than anything else. We do get some very good dialogue with Ellendale. The acting with Ellendale is very good. I liked seeing Galadriel finally put in her place a little bit because she's been acting like a spoiled little bitch the whole show, and she's finally being told you're not special, you're in our house, you need to obey by our rules. So it's kind of nice to see her character getting taken down a notch with some realism here. The Again, a lot of genre stuff here. So the sea trial is very generic. The Destiny stuff is a little over the top, but I did find the overall writing to be good for some of these sequences, for many of these sequences above the Harfoot stuff. It's from a entertainment spectacle standpoint, I got to give this one credit for a lot of the visual effects and everything else. Even though I didn't like personally the action sequence at the end, it's obviously a lot went into that. Visually, it is a spectacle that is worthy of recognition. The special effects for Numenor and the ships and everything else are worthy of recognition. So, from a generic fantasy standpoint, I would give this one a 7 out of 10. What drags it down is poor dialogue, some poor writing. Again, I'm getting a little sick and tired of Galadriel being all like, "Yeah, I'm upset and I'm on a quest for vengeance and nothing can get in my way and you need to give me what I want because I'm a special elf lady." Like that's getting a little old. But overall, another solid entry into the series. I think there's room here for the general fantasy fare. Um, if you're a Tolkien, if you're even in remotely the slightest way knowledgeable about Tolkien lore, this is going to be the worst episode we've seen to date because of the creation of new characters and just going off book about a bunch of other stuff. But that's it. That's my review. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget if you want to support the channel, you can do a super thanks down here. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Join in a live stream if you want to support that way with super chats. And don't forget to check out our Patreon page. Until next time, everybody, happy viewing.